the mountain. Sapta aham, for 7 days. Na achalat, he did not move. Padat, from that place. Translation: Lord Krishna, forgetting hunger and thirst and putting aside all considerations of personal pleasure, stood there holding up the hill for 7 days as the people of Braja gazed upon him. Please repeat. Lord Krishna, forgetting hunger and thirst. And putting aside all considerations of personal pleasure. Stood there holding up the hill. For 7 days. As the people of Braja gazed upon him. Purport. According to the Vishnu Purana, Lord Krishna held up the mountain while his praises were chanted by the residents of Braja, all of whom now had the opportunity to dwell together with him, and who glanced at him with joyful and amazed eyes. Thus the cowherd men and women were all elated, and out of loving affection they opened their eyes wide. By continuously drinking the nectar of the beauty and sweetness of Sri Krishna, the residents of Vrindavan felt no hunger, thirst or fatigue. And Lord Krishna, by seeing their beautiful forms, also forgot about eating, drinking and sleeping. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that 7 days of continuous rain from the Samvartika clouds failed to flood the district of Mathura, because the Supreme Lord, simply by his potency, immediately dried up the water as it fell to the ground. Thus Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill is full of fascinating details and has for thousands of years remained one of his most famous pastimes. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Brahmana Devaya Go, Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and Brahmins, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and the world. That is from one of the original Vedas. I have another beautiful verse here I'd just like to share with you all before we attempt to speak something on this wonderful festival day. Because we normally have Chaitanya Charitamrita class on a Saturday morning, I thought we could just mention something about Lord Chaitanya's visit to Vrindavan. And this is a very famous verse, and perhaps some of you might like to guess which gopi is actually speaking this at the end. And I'll quote here: "Of all the devotees, this Govardhan hill is the best. O my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram, as well as their calves, cows and cowherd friends, with all kinds of necessities. Water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers and vegetables. In this way the hill offers respect to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan Hill appears very jubilant." This is a quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-18. It was spoken by the gopis when Lord Krishna and Balaram entered the forest in the autumn. The gopis spoke this amongst themselves and glorified Krishna and Balaram for their pastimes. Anyone know, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which particular gopi spoke that? She's very famous. Hey, Haribol! Yes, Srimati Radharani. Thank you. So, and of course, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Vrindavan, he first visited Radhakunda and Shyamakunda, and immediately after that he proceeded to Govardhan Hill. And what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does, we attempt to not imitate but follow in his lotus footsteps, and whatever the Lord didn't do, we don't do. And one thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't do when he visited Govardhan Hill was actually step foot on Govardhan, Giriraj Govardhan, because he saw Govardhan Hill as identical with Lord Sri Krishna. So we also follow that example. And but the situation was, there was a very beautiful deity of Gopal Roy, who was situated in a temple right on the top of Govardhan Hill. He was one of the original deities installed by one of Krishna's great grandsons, Brajanaba, 4,500 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and rediscovered by Madhavendra Puri, and who organized a wonderful reinstallation ceremony for many days and had the local people construct a magnificent temple. So it's said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much wanted to see the beauty of Lord Gopal, as did Gopal want to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Gopal made an arrangement, a transcendental arrangement, where he spread a rumor in the village of Govardhan that some Turkish soldiers were about to attack his temple and he needed to be moved. So he was moved quickly to a village not far away, Gantuligram. And there for several days Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the opportunity, to his heart's content, to see Lord Gopal. And interestingly, Gopal made a similar arrangement a short time later when Rupa and Sanatan moved to Vrindavan permanently, in that he again spread a similar rumor and was moved actually to a house in Mathura, which Vital was one of the sons of Vallabha Acharya, and he stayed in his house, and Rupa and Sanatan got a chance to see Lord Gopal there. Of course, these rumours often did translate into very real threats to all the deities in Vrindavan, so for that reason many of them were moved, including Lord Gopal, to Rajasthan, where the Lord now resides, a very famous deity of Krishna, Nathji in Nathdwar. And if you are familiar with the beautiful paintings, or have ever had the fortune to go there, you will see that this deity of Krishna, Nathji as he's known nowadays, is very similar to our Krishna on our far right altar, in that he's lifting Govardhan Hill with the little pinky of his left hand, and his right hand he has very casually resting on his hip. So Krishna's all powerful. He can play a flute and lift Govardhan Hill simultaneously. Not difficult at all for him. So this is a wonderful festival. Of course, we can see it was a massive departure from the so-called conventional time 5,000 years ago, when on one occasion Krishna saw that his father Nanda Maharaj and the other elders of Vrindavan were organising a festival. So Krishna was only 7 years old at that time. Curb that pride which Krishna does not like in his devotees. Absolute humility is the quality for entering into Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's abode. Dainya, it's mentioned in Sanskrit. So to curb Indra's pride, and also to show the world that there's no need actually to worship demigods. By worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, all our necessities of life can very nicely be taken care of. Just as when we put food in the stomach, our hunger is appeased, we enjoy the pleasure of eating, and our body gets nourished. Or similarly, by watering the root of a plant, the whole plant becomes nourished. And also, the third reason of many, to enliven his eternal associates his whole community of devotees in Braja, including all the animals. So ultimately Krishna was able to convince his father that, and he used very clever arguments, including karma mimamsa philosophy, which states that karma is supreme. Whether there's a supreme lord or demigods, that may be or may not be, according to atheistic karma mimamsa philosophy. But karma, if we just do our actions and do our work, our prescribed duties in a very nice way, we suffer results of perhaps some previous bad karma, and we enjoy the fruits of our good karma, and we try to live in a very nice way, then that's the best we can do. And ultimately, we're getting our necessities of life from Govardhan Hill. As Srimati Radharani explained to her girlfriends in that previous verse, so many delightful, there were, once upon a time, 5,000 years ago, springs of water bubbling up all over Govardhan. There were streams, there were caves, there were even dyes, natural pigments that all the residents of Braja could mix up into paste and decorate their bodies and decorate the cows, as I'm sure we'll see later on this morning. And the list goes on and on. And also it's interesting to note that 5,000 years ago, the river Jamuna actually flowed right past Govardhan. Those of us who have done Govardhan Parikrama will know that there is one place between Radhakund and Govardhan Hill known as the boathouse. Why boathouse? Because the river Jamuna flowed right past Govardhan Hill way back then. And there were boats there, and the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna, and all of their friends would regularly go for boat rides. So everything was there on Govardhan Hill. So ultimately, Krishna was able to convince his father just to take all of the paraphernalia that had been assembled for the worship of Indra and instead worship Govardhan Hill. Because initially, Nanda Maharaj said, Krishna, we will certainly worship Govardhan Hill another day, but for now, let's just worship Indra. But Krishna was steadfast, and being ever willing and wanting to please his divine son, Nanda Maharaj, eventually allowed that to happen. And of course, we know Indra was very upset, became extremely angry, sent the Samvartika clouds, torrents of rain, which actually appear at the time of universal devastation, attempted to cause harm to the Brijabasis. So Krishna, it's said he ran, or not ran, he actually walked at a quick pace from the porch of Nanda Maharaj's and Mother Jasoda's palace to Govardhan Hill. And by the Lord's wonderful potencies, like his Leela Shakti, all arrangement was made, not even a drop of water landed on Krishna's turban. And effortlessly the Lord picked up Govardhan Hill, and just to further infuriate Indra, he did it on the left hand, little finger of his left hand, and held it aloof, as we know, for 7 days. And that is wonderful because generally the inhabitants of Vrindavan would see Krishna at certain times of the day, but not all day or all night. But for these 7 days, Krishna was with them 24/7, as they say. So everyone had the unique opportunity just to gaze at the boundless beauty of the Supreme Lord, and pastimes went on. Under the hill, there was, and Giri Govardhan himself was ecstatic. He expanded due to being held on the little finger of the Lord. He expanded to the size to easily accommodate all the residents of Vrindavan underneath the hill. There are actually 4 chapters in this 10th canto, describing the events leading up to this pastime, the actual pastime, and then the events immediately thereafter. So we're not going to get all the way through today. We're just giving a brief synopsis. We're very fortunate. Ramai Maharaj and Ambika will be giving us classes as our groups go around today. Quite extraordinary. If I could just mention, we've only got a few minutes, so Govardhan actually has dual identity, and that is that he is the Supreme Lord, but he's also famous as Haridasya Varya, which means he's the best devotee of Krishna. When the Anakuta Mahotsava, when Krishna, when it was agreed that all the cowherd men and women would worship Giri Govardhan that particular day, Krishna expanded himself as Govardhan Hill, and he accepted all of those offerings, which were great. So much bhoga had been cooked and prepared, and Krishna, as Govardhan Hill, he expanded himself and ate everything, and was not even satisfied after that. So that famously he said, "Aniyo, give me more please." So in this way, the Lord performs this wonderful pastime, and ultimately in the chapters after this one, Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill, Indra becomes very repentant, very remorseful. He realizes he's committed a grave offense. He didn't recognize his Supreme Lord. Just like a dramatical artist, when dressed up in costume, cannot even be recognized by his own intimate family members. So Indra did not recognize Krishna, and became very angry. His intelligence was lost, and as a result he committed this grave offense by trying to do harm to the residents of Vrindavan. So he came to apologize to Krishna, and it's said that Krishna took Indra aside initially and in a very grave voice. Generally 7-year-old boys don't have very grave voices. How old is Haridas now? 13. Okay, so he might start to get a grave voice soon. Look out, Dad. Okay, but a 7-year-old boy, generally not a grave voice. But Krishna manifested a very grave voice when he instructed and rebuked Indra. And of course, Indra didn't come alone, but because sometimes when there's some very serious function one has to perform, you like to have a little moral support. So Indra came with Surabhi, who is the supreme empress of all cows. It's actually said here in the next chapter that Surabhi has her own planet. It's also known as Goloka, but it's not the Goloka or Krishna Loka of this Vaikuntha realm, but there's a planet of cows in this material world. So on the way, Indra brought Surabhi, and of course wonderful pastimes where Airavata, the 4-tusked elephant that Indra rides on, some celestial Ganges water was brought, and Surabhi provided unlimited milk, and there was a wonderful Abhishekam, bathing ceremony of Krishna. And of course Krishna is known by a number of names. We're very fortunate here. This is the wonder of Krishna consciousness movement. We are worshipping Radha Govardhana Dari and Krishna Balaram and Lord Giriraj. And it was actually after this wonderful festival that Krishna became also known as Govinda, or the Lord of the cows. Indra means controller, or Lord. So in this way Krishna became also known as Govinda. So we've gone a few minutes over, and there's lots more to do today. I'm thinking, Maharaj, maybe I won't take any questions or comments, just... and it looks like it's finding up, everyone. Govardhana Dari, we're just, freshening everything up this morning. But have a wonderful, wonderful Govardhan Puja, everyone, and Go Puja. And Jai Shri Radha Govardhana Dari Ki. Shri Krishna Balaram Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki. New Govardhan Farm Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Gaura Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki.